Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the events of Chronicle XLV, titled The Hand Extended and the Siege of Irondale. And wow, let me tell you, the atmosphere we're dealing with today is just unbelievably gritty and tense. We're looking at a scenario where the ghosts of the past violently crash into a really terrifying present. The fallout for the Gnoll's Bane is catastrophic. You know they've survived some insane odds before, but what happens here? It fundamentally fractures the group in ways they might never bounce back from. Let's break down exactly how it all went down. Listen to this line. Do you know how many roads over how many lifetimes I've walked searching for you? Chilling, right? Those are the words of General Tamakti, and they instantly ground this story in so much emotional weight. This isn't just bumping into an old friend. This is a confrontation literally centuries in the making, set right in the middle of a ruined, forgotten dwarven courtyard. So we're not starting off with the clash of steel, we're starting with the exhausting, heavy burden of history. Section 1. A quiet, tense arrival. So, to set the stage for that epic reunion, we've got to look at how the party actually got there. The Gnoll's Bane managed to slip completely undetected through these damp, forgotten tunnels right beneath the occupied city of Irondale. They pop up into this empty, quiet courtyard surrounding the ancient archives, and get this, enemy patrols are stomping around right above them, totally clueless. Right in the center of this courtyard is a massive, weathered stone monument of a forgotten dwarven hero. And Talonor, without missing a beat, he just scales the thing. He sits right on its broad shoulder, looks out over the occupied city, and starts playing a soft, haunting elven melody. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It just kind of drifted through the cold stone streets like an aching memory. But here is where the tension just skyrockets. For one heartbeat, nothing. Total silence in the courtyard. Then, a few seconds later, you hear it, the heavy, rhythmic sound of leathery wings. A single cloaker appears out of the gloom. Then another one. Moments later, you've got dozens of these things circling the courtyard in widening rings, screeching like they're announcing royalty. They're described as literal shadows given life, blotting out what little ambient light there was. And finally, the sky just goes completely dark as a colossal cloaker descends in these slow, majestic circles. And riding on its back? General Tamakti, with his long white hair whipping in the cavernous wind. The suspense built up in these few moments is absolutely masterclass. Moving into Section 2, Talonor leaves the Bane. Okay, so back to that incredible standoff. No blades are drawn. It's just two old comrades speaking truths they've kept buried for centuries. Talonor says he's here to make peace, to save his home. When Tamakti extends his hand, offering his brother a way out, Talonor just drops his weapon. It hits the ancient stone with this heavy, final clatter. He takes Tamakti's hand, swearing to make things right, and they mount that giant cloaker base and just vanish into the dark. But while that's this epic, noble departure, the scene on the ground is just heartbreaking. Ord, the young lizard folk, he watches his trusted friend disappear and literally collapses to the courtyard floor in tears. He is sobbing, completely devastated and terrified at being left behind. Even Phelan, the spectral wolf, is whining in deep sorrow. The party is dangerously, perhaps permanently, fractured right here. Section 3. General Durog's brutal execution. Now, if you thought the emotional devastation was the peak of this chapter, brace yourself. The tone shifts violently. It turns out the Duergar were watching from the balconies the entire time. They spring an ambush that plays out in 4 devastating steps. Step 1, they drag 10 bound and beaten hammer-deep dwarves out into view on the upper floors. Step 2, they just shove one of the captives violently over the edge, hitting the hard stones below with a sickening crack. Step 3, Cedric sprints out of cover, acting on pure desperation, and uses wild nature magic to miraculously heal the dying dwarf. But step 4, man, this is where the terror goes off the charts. Duergar soldiers flood the courtyard, and right through the center walks General Duergog. When Cedric tries to negotiate, Duergog answers by walking straight up to the dwarf Cedric just saved and brutally smashes his head in with a heavy warhammer. It's a completely cold-blooded execution. Message received, right? Negotiation is 100% off the table. Which brings us to Section 4, the elephant and the duel. So Durog's horrific act completely shatters whatever standoff was left. In a single heartbeat, the battle erupts. Thane, the bard, undergoes this absolutely massive, awe-inspiring transformation. He rapidly expands into thick gray muscle, gleaming tusks, and towering legs. Boom! Where a bard just stood, there is now a massive, furious elephant. And with this thunderous, ear-splitting cry that echoes off the ancient archives, Thane charges straight into General Durog. It is such a bold, cinematic kickoff to the siege of Irondale. It screams, "We're not going down without throwing everything we have at you." And they really do throw everything they've got into this chaos. It's completely frantic. Cedric is desperately trying to shield the wounded in the middle of the fray. Calypso is lighting up the ruined space, her spells flashing wildly between the ancient pillars. Sunny's slingstones are just cracking through the air, picking off targets with whistling precision. Okazaki dives headfirst into the bloody melee. And Roberto? The seasoned swordsman's blade is an absolute blur. He is dancing through the Duragar ranks, fiercely refusing to give up even a single inch of ground. It's this breathtaking display of skill, loyalty, and sheer, unadulterated desperation. Section 5. The Fall of Roberto. But despite all that valiant effort, the painful reality of who they're fighting sets in. General Durog operates on a completely different level. He fights with this terrifying discipline, shrugging off hits and swinging with crushing strength. But the scariest part? His confidence. Several times during the brutal fight, Durog actually smiles. And get this, he arrogantly waves his own troops off. He literally commands his heavy forces to stand back so he can fight the entire party all by himself. Every single blow he lands carries the weight of a seasoned conqueror, systematically breaking the party's momentum and forcing the exhausted heroes backward. And that leads us to the tragic climax of this siege. As the lore puts it, the seasoned swordsman collapsed beneath the relentless assault. Despite his masterful technique and stubborn refusal to back down, Roberto is finally brought low by Drogo's overwhelming solo assault. He becomes the first of the Gnoll's Bane to fall within the walls of Irondale. It is just a massive emotional blow to process. Think about where the group is at right now in this bloody, shattered courtyard. One dear friend has been carried away on a giant cloaker, another comrade is sobbing on the floor, and now their best swordsman lies motionless on the cold stones. So I want to leave you with this lingering question. With their ranks broken, their morale shattered by Talonor walking away, and their greatest swordsman brought down by an unstoppable general, how in the world will the Gnoll's Bane survive the rest of the siege of Irondale? The cost of this ambush is already so devastating, and the true battle has literally just begun. What do you think their next move could possibly be? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive gave you a clear picture of just how intense Chronicle X5V was. Keep analyzing, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.